Motogp 23 is widely seen as one of the worst MotoGP games Milestone has ever produced. In this video, I look at how they have dropped the ball over the last 3 years and why I have very little hope for their future games. To figure out why Motogp 23 is so unloved, first we must go back to June 7th, 2018. That was when Motogp 18 released on PC and console. Now, Motogp 18 was the first MotoGP and Milestone game to go to the Unreal Engine 4. And around and before launch, it was pretty hyped that we were getting a new out of Milestone house engine. It was graphically massive step forward. Everyone thought it was going to be a big step from Milestone, making the gap from them to the likes of Codemasters much closer. And on paper and on the few previews we saw first, it did look like they had made a massive step. Audio was good, graphics looked good, everything looked okay until we got to actually play the game. Physics were probably the worst, and I still stand by, are the worst ever we've had in a MotoGP game. Inherent understeer. The suspension system was just so arcade and amateur. They did not have any idea what they were doing. Now, I gave them a bit of slack because it was their first attempt at making their MotoGP game in a different engine. So it was always going to be slightly okay only. If you look back to F1 2015 when they came up to the next gen, they made a very good go at it, but it wasn't an amazing game. It still had its flaws, but it was a nice step. I look at that as MotoGP 2018. They made a step to a new engine. They took a brave decision to go out of the in-house engine that they were running since 2013 and have a go at a massive engine in the Unreal Engine 4. Now, currently on 2023, we're still on this engine. Now, they have signed to go to the Unreal Engine 5. Now, we don't know when that's going to come. Now, the reason I've brought you back here to MotoGP 18 is all of the 2023 issues all stem back to this game. Milestone yearly build games upon games on each other, so they start off with a foundation, and that would be Motogp 18 in this case. Every year they build upon it, and each game gets slightly tweaked, slightly enhanced, slightly more refined, and each year we pay $60, €60, £60, whatever it may be, for a graphic update, a skins update that aren't available at launch, and a small tweak in physics. Now, the big things about GP bikes is the engine. The engine is amazing. Everything on top of the engine is mediocre, let's be honest. But the engine is so good that we have so many people play that game day in, day out. It's one of the best games around. If you're building a house, you need to start at the foundations, and they are the most important bits. Unfortunately, our current games, our foundation is MotoGP 18, and that was just not very good. The physics were so bad in it that they've every year tried to tweak it and get it back to what would be a bit more realistic. Unfortunately, it's currently like the situation in Mercedes Formula 1 team. They have made a fundamentally flawed car. Each year they're trying to upgrade it, and every couple of months they're bringing upgrades to see can they get the car to behave a bit more normally. Unfortunately, we're seeing the exact same with Milestone's MotoGP game. Motogp 19 fixed a lot of the issues, but the riding was still heavily unrealistic with this weird over-rotation on the throttle that the esports abused. Really wasn't good to watch, wasn't amazing to play, had some weird braking as well where the bike didn't turn until you released the brake, which something has come back in 2022 and 2023. Then we got MotoGP 20. At launch, the game was way too quick. Now, they brought in the first year of the very aggressive brakes where that the bike would dance on the brakes. Now, a lot of people didn't like that, but it was a bit more of a realism factor, and that was a plus too. Then we got 21, again, tweaked upon that again. And 21 for me was the sweet spot. Since then, they've just gone too far one way or the other, and they've just gone backwards. 22 for me, no enjoyment. The front end had no feeling. A lot of issues with braking, and just overall, you had a lack of control and always felt like you're a couple of steps behind the bike. And that leads us to where we are today with MotoGP 23. We've readdressed some of the issues from MotoGP 22, but then I've also created more issues. And this is why at the start of the video I said I don't have confidence that they'll get it right going forward. Since MotoGP 18, they've been chasing their tail one way or the other. Each time they react, they overreact and go too far the other way. We finally need to get some small adjustments to these games. They need to be refined instead of overhauled every year. Each year we come along, there is a massive change in how the bike handles. For me, it all stems back to this. Like I mentioned earlier, the foundations of MotoGP 18 were never good enough, and unfortunately, MotoGP 19 should have been built from the ground up. Now, unfortunately, year in, year out games, yearly releases are never going to be built from the ground up, and unfortunately, that is just one of the big issues with Milestone is that they're contracted to put out a MotoGP game every 12 months. Now, that means they are limited to what they can change, they are limited to what they want to add to the game, and they're very limited in how they can actually approach that. They have to have the new tracks, they have to have the new bikes, even though we don't seem to get them on launch anymore. They have to have the game matching the real life sport as close as possible as per contract with Dorna. Now, years ago, an ex-EA Sports developer put out a statement basically describing how they go about their bug fixing. There was 4 categories: A, B, C and D. A were game breaking, they must be fixed between the new game and the previous release, so they would be gaming issues that would make the game crash, massive stutters, things that are massively against the game that would make the game unplayable. B were ones that were widely reported and that were, again, not game breaking but a massive issue and again had to be resolved. C were minor ones and so were D. A lot of times, according to this developer, he said A would get about 80% finished, B would get about 50%, and by the time they get to C, maybe 10%, and they wouldn't even touch D. I believe Milestone is in the exact same situation because of the yearly releases. How many games in a row have we had the same glitches over and over again from Milestone? Each year they copy their games over, start afresh, but that base code is still there, the base bugs carry over year in, year out, and they go to tweak the physics, they go to tweak new career mode, new this, new that, they add more bugs in, and then next year that bug's coming forward too. So unfortunately, the big issue for me is that they're on a yearly cycle and they're never going to have enough time to fix it. Now, what I'd love to see Milestone do, now unrealistic I know, but hear me out. I'd love to see him release a game that they would constantly update instead of have to shift the focus to next year's game. So essentially, release a MotoGP, the official video game, instead of MotoGP 24. Every 6 months, put out a small update, tweak whatever you need to do to get your physics where they need to be. I think if Milestone were given the time, I have full faith they actually could make a good game. One of Milestone's biggest issues is that they're contracted to put out a game every year for MotoGP, MXGP, Monster Energy Supercross. They have the Ride series, they have the Hot Wheels series, they also have Gravel, which was their own EP that they're probably working on in behind as well. So they have so many products to put out. They have to put out certain ones at certain times. Corners have to get cut because of this. I don't believe Milestone are a bad company, and I never have believed that they purposely don't care, they purposely put out bad games. I genuinely think that they are the same side as us, where they would love their games to be more realistic. Now, of course, we have to cater to all needs, so you have to have some sort of entry-level game for younger people, for people who are only passing interest in the sport. But I still believe if Milestone could put out a game that they could update every 6 months to a year, include the new skins when they're available, the new graphics when needed, new features, new arrows, new everything like that, if they could slowly update it, focus on building a game, getting us a really in-depth career mode, focusing on their netcode, imagine what their game could be like. We could have a really, really solid game. Now, unfortunately for Dorna, for Milestone, that doesn't probably sell as well as MotoGP 24, MotoGP 25, MotoGP 26, year in, year out, another game, a new one, new career mode, new online, new managerial, new this, new that, new game, buy this, please, please, please. Whereas if they just put out a game, now I do understand that this is not possible currently, but maybe in the future, you never know. But I'm going to pretty much wrap it up there. That is one of the biggest issues why we're not going to see anything change in the next couple of years, is because they don't have the time to make a game that they probably would be more proud of. They don't have the resources to put out so many games and make them better and overall raise the level of their content and their general games, really. And unfortunately, we are paying the price as the consumer, having to play their games and their mediocre content at the moment. Now, unfortunately, it's not going to change for 24. It's not going to change for 25. Personally, I don't know whether I'll play much 24 or 25, or even if I'll get them. As you'll probably seen if you're a long-time viewer on the channel, I've really backed off the content on 23 because I've already had enough of it. I've only played about 36, 37 hours, and I'm just at my limit of enjoyment now. I don't really enjoy it. The only time I boot that game up is solely for purpose of YouTube. Even when I stream every Friday night, I don't even play it now. It's just gone past the point where it's just too much of a hassle and it's not enjoyment. Life is too short, unfortunately, to play it. So, unfortunately, for the rest of the year, you will see a lot less content on the game, but there will be some come every once in a while, and maybe, you never know, they might update it, they might make it better, but I have my doubts. So I'm going to leave that there for today's video. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments, whether you agree, disagree, whether you have a different angle altogether on why Milestone haven't produced games of high quality in the last couple of years, but just let me know in the comments down below. That's where I leave today's video. Thank you all for tuning in. Drop a like if you do agree and you did enjoy today's video. Subscribe to see more content on Motogp 23, GP bikes, and many other games in the future. Thanks for watching. See you all in the next video.